Hi Team Amaze. Welcome to the first stretch and mobility class here online on YouTube. Please make sure that you modify any movements, and if things are hurting, maybe try to take one of my suggestions on one of the modifications, or just back off and choose another movement that we did earlier or that you're aware of that is more comfortable for you. So we're going to start off with a little bit of a warm-up. Most of us are kind of cooped up inside these days, so we're just going to get our bodies moving a little bit. To start off with, if your shoulders are sore, you don't have to reach up very high. You can just bring your arms up in front or out to the side. Everybody else, we're going to bend the knees a little bit, reach the arms all the way up overhead, wiggle your fingers, and then bring them down to the side. Just kind of moving through the shoulders, bend the knees a little bit, reaching up. Wiggle the fingers and bring the arms all the way down to the sides. Bend the knees and reach up. And then wiggle the fingers all the way down to the side. We're going to try that 2 more times. A little bit of a bend to the knees. Maybe if it's feeling okay, you can get a little bit deeper into that bend. Reach up, and if it's feeling all right, reach back behind you a little bit, kind of arching through the spine a little bit. Good. I'll show you from the side. Bend the knees. Reach all the way up. And then arching back, only if it's feeling okay for you. One last time, bend, reach, and all the way back. Good, floating the arms back down to the sides. Good. Some of you who know me a little bit are going to recognize what's coming up next. The next little warm-up exercise we're going to do is getting up and down off the ground 5 times. So for this first class, we'll keep it fairly simple. You're going to reach the hands up and overhead. That's going to be our starting position for each of the movements. Bring your hands down to the ground and come on down to the ground. You're going to come all the way onto your back. Good. And then rolling to the left side, pressing through the hands to help you come to a seated position, coming onto the knees, maybe popping the hips up a little bit, walking the feet closer to the hands, and then all the way up again. Good. Let's come down again. Hands to the ground, coming on down. This time shift onto your right hip. Good. And come onto your back. And then rolling onto the right side, pressing yourself up with your hands. Good. If I'm moving a little bit too quick for you, feel free to just take your time, move it at a pace that feels right for you, popping the knees up off the ground, walk the hands to the feet this time. And then we're going to finish up with the arms and up and overhead. Good. We're going to try to do that a different way again. Bring the hands down to the ground. Good. Walk the hands away a little bit. Walk the feet away a little bit. Walk the hands away a little bit. And then the feet and the knees are going to come back down. Good. So from this position, lift the knees and twist to sit on your left hip, if that's available. If not, you can just go back to one of the previous positions we worked on before and coming onto your back. Good. Rolling onto your left side, pushing yourself up. This time, keep the knees pointing towards me, hands to the side. If you have enough strength to do this, you can press into your hands and try not to let your knees touch the ground this time. If that's not available to you, just get up off the ground as you are able to. So the knees might pop up off the ground. Good, and let's bring the feet wide of the hands this time and tightening up the core to stand up. Good, and reach the arms up and overhead. I'm kind of moving out of the screen here a little bit. You can do with what I got. Bring the arms back down. Good. And this time bring the feet out nice and wide. Good. Come down onto the knees and shift onto your right hip. Good. On onto the ground. Did we do right hip? Oh well, you guys all know me. Moving on to the right hip. If you can, lift from the hands, pop the knees up off the ground, bring the feet out nice and wide, and come on up, all the way up to stand. Good. This time we're going to come back down onto the ground, hands onto the ground. How are we going to get down this time? Hover the knees up off the ground. Good. And walk them to one side of your hands to come down. Good. And lying on your back. And we're going to do that same thing on the way, whoopsie, sorry. Turning onto your left side. Good. Bring your feet up close to your hands. If you can pop yourself up again, walk them back. Good. And walk your hands back towards your feet. All the way up. One more time on the other side. Touch the ground. Walk your feet to the left this time. And bring your right hip down to the ground. Onto your back. Good. And then rolling onto the right. Walk your feet over to the left. Lift your hips. And walking back up. Good. No right or wrong way, just challenging the body by doing things a little bit differently each time. Good, so we've done a lot of work there through the core, the hips, a lot through the shoulders and the arms to get ourselves up off the ground. Let's just roll the shoulders a few times, up, back, and down. Good, and place your hands on your shoulders, turn the elbows back in circles. Good, and seeing if you can keep the spine nice and tall. Good. You can always stay with one of those two movements, just the shoulders rolling or the elbows turning in circles. Or if it's available to you, the arms can reach all the way up and back. Up and back. Good. This kind of helps to open up the front of the chest as the arms come back and down behind you. The shoulder blades may be sliding down your back as your arms come back and down. Good. Waking up some of the big back muscles. Good. And one more time. Good, and bring your feet about hip width apart. And this time you're going to circle the head a little bit. So if you get a little bit dizzy, you might want to choose to hold on to something like a table or a wall. You can face the wall or have your back to the wall. Just make sure you're staying safe here. You're going to think about a pencil or a marker being on the tip of your nose. And you're going to draw your nose in circles. Start quite small, especially if you have any neck issues or any sort of vertigo or dizziness. Just go very small. And the other direction. Good. And coming back to center. All right. So we're going to spend most of the rest of today down on the ground. So if you have a mat or something to lay out, or just the carpet that you're on, or even on your bed, that would work out just fine. So come on down onto the ground. The other thing that may be useful, and you can take a moment to grab it if you need it, is to have a blanket or a pillow or some sort of cushion to sit up on if you need. I'm just going to grab mine here. So a folded up blanket here, I'm just going to place it onto the ground. It's not necessary, but it might be a little bit more comfortable. You're going to sit down on that blanket here. Okay. So we're going to do a little bit of rotation through the torso. Your options here are to cross your legs, a typical cross-legged position like this. Another option might be, if that's uncomfortable for your knees or your hips at all, is to just bring the feet out in front of you and have the knees bent. So we can do all the exercises like this if that's more comfortable. Okay. Or you can have the soles of the feet together and just the knees dropped open towards the sides, if that feels any better for you. So however feels most comfortable for you to be sitting, facing forward, probably both legs doing the same thing. I'm going to come into a cross-legged sit. I'm just going to place my hands on my knees. If you feel uncomfortable while we're doing any of this stuff, feel free to just stop, change positions, make sure you're listening to your body, change positions or move a little bit differently, and just join in again. You can always press pause on the video as well, and just do something that feels good for your body if something's not feeling good, and then come back and join in. So hands are going to be on the knees. You're going to be sitting up nice and tall here. We're going to keep the two sit bones. You're going to keep your pelvis nice and steady, nice and firm on the ground or on the cushion. And I'd like you to start to turn your body, kind of circling your body. So you're kind of rolling or rocking along the bottom of the pelvis here a little bit. Good. Again, you can start small like we did with our neck things earlier. I'll just show you from the side. So your sit bones are nice and firm on the ground or on the cushion. And let's go the other way. Circling around. This is going to be stretching out the lower back and the hips a little bit probably too. Anytime you go to sit on the ground, you're getting quite a bit more of a stretch through the hips. This can help to, over time, alleviate back pain as well. Just allowing a bit more length through the back of the body. Good, so we've done a few little circles each direction. Sitting up nice and tall. Your option 1 is to bring your arms in front of you, like railway tracks in front of you, or to reach the arms up and overhead. If you've got them up and overhead, plug the arm bones back down into the shoulder sockets. Good, and then take one hand to the opposite knee. I've got my right hand on my left knee here. My left hand is behind me, and I'm sitting up nice and tall, even through the sit bones again, and then twisting there from the upper body. Your shoulders relaxed. Of checking in with your jaw, your shoulders, your neck. Good, and come back to center. We'll do the same thing to the other side. So option 1 is here, and then do the twist. Or option 2, the arms reaching up and overhead, plug them back down, keeping that length in the neck, and then twisting. Left hand to the right knee. Try to keep your weight even on those sit bones, even as you're twisting here. So your hips are staying nice and heavy, your knees are staying nice and heavy. And a few breaths in and out. Maybe each breath out, your body maybe is allowed to twist a little bit further. Maybe not, maybe. Good, and come back to center. Wonderful, good. Lengthen through the spine here a little bit, and we're just going to do a little bit of cat-cow in this seated position. Try to allow the knees to be nice and heavy here. So from a side angle, knees are nice and heavy. You're going to pull your belly button in towards your spine, rounding through your spine as if you're holding onto a big beach ball in front of your body. And then pull onto your knees, lift the front of your chest up. The middle of your chest lifts up towards the sky, arching through the back. Good, and breathing out as you round, maybe in as you lift. Go at your own pace. Use your breath to determine the pace. There's no rush here. Lifting and arching, tucking and rounding. Good. So this time your pelvis is going to be moving forward and then back as you're moving the spine here. Lifting, tilting your pelvis forward, rolling onto the front edge of your sit bones, and then rounding backwards. The back edge of the sit bones, belly button to spine, rounding through your spine here. Good, one more time each. Lift and round. Good, and sitting up nice and tall again, just finding that, again, that even position on your sit bones. Position number 1, elbows in their arms in that train track position. Position number 2, the arms can be up and overhead. Plug the arm bones back in. Good, and then bring the left hand down to the ground beside you. And your option is to reach up and overhead and leaning into that left hand. Or if you are in this position to start with, bring the left hand to the side, cross the arm across the chest, and tilting over to the side. Keep the knees nice and heavy. Keep the hips nice and heavy so you've still got even pressure on those 2 sit bones, sitting heavily into the ground or into that cushion and getting this length down the side of the body. Here's option 2. Come back to center. Good, option 2 or option 1. And we're going to go to the other side. So the right hand comes to the side, left hand across your chest. If that's what feels comfortable, keep the hips nice and heavy, the knees nice and heavy. Tilting or, leaning the body over to the side, getting that side flexion. And option number 2 here is the arm's going to come all the way up and overhead. Good, and come back up to your starting position. Let's try that one more time on each side. Option 1, option 2, and then over to the left. You're going to get that stretch down the side of the body. If you can, try to lift your chest up towards the sky just a little bit. If it's feeling uncomfortable at all, back off, go to the previous level, or don't lean as much into that side flexion. Good. Second side, train tracks or up and overhead and leaning to the side. Good, here's your other option. Keep the hips nice and heavy. And then in this position, lifting your chest up towards the sky. Beautiful, and come back to center. Good stuff. Okay, the challenging part here, you're going to switch your legs up. Okay, so we're going to do that same thing again. If you had your legs crossed, cross them the awkward way or the uncomfortable way. If you had your feet up in front of you like this, or your feet together, maybe choose a different position for this next series. We're going to do exactly the same thing, just a different position for the hips to maybe get a little bit of a different stretch. If you can't find another comfortable position, just repeat the same thing that we just did. Okay, so you've got your legs changed into a different position. We're going to start, what do we start with? With circles. We're going to start with these torso circles, side, forward, off to the other side and back. Good. Think about keeping the sit bones nice and heavy, your hips nice and heavy into the ground here. Heavy onto the cushion or the blanket that you're sitting on, or if you're sitting straight on the ground, just nice and heavy into the ground here. Good, and let's go 5 times the other way. 5-ish, you know me. 5-ish. Good. Rotating around, hips nice and heavy. You're just rolling on the pelvis, back to the side, to the front of the pelvis. It may feel a bit different through the hips, and you've got your legs in a different position here. Good, and coming back to your starting position, whoops, the awkward way, for those of you with crossed legs. And position, or option number 1 here, train tracks. Option number 2, arms up and overhead. Keep the hips nice and heavy this whole time. Drop the arm bones into the shoulder sockets, and we're going to twist to the left. Hand on your knee, other hand behind you. Use the hands to push yourself up. Keep the knees nice and heavy. Keep the weight even on those sit bones and twisting to the left. Maybe here you can start to breathe deeply into the rib cage. So think about expanding the rib cage all the way around the chest. Expand it out to the side to get that breath in. And back to center. Option 1. Option 2, either way, draw the shoulders away from the ears, twisting to the right. Hand on the knee, hand behind your back. Lengthen through the spine. As you breathe out, you can maybe allow that twist a little bit more. Breathe in through the rib cage and out and in and out. Good. One more time. Feels pretty good. Keep the knees nice and heavy. Good, and coming back to your starting position. Stuff maybe a few little shoulder rolls here. Let's go into that cat-cow position, so I'll show you from the side. The legs should still feel maybe a little bit awkward here. Hands on the knees, belly button towards the spine, rounding through the spine, dropping the